getting stronger by the day. Yeah,
Hello Mzansi, your favorite trio is back on your screens for the last Tuesday of the month. It's TrendingSA right here on S3. We are here to serve you the latest trends and topics fresh from the timelines, straight to your TV. I am the emperor of the house, the first of his kind, the chosen one, the starring, the MacGyver. I'm a Blair. And helping me serve you the lineup of trends tonight is, of course, my supporting cast, because you know every show needs to have supporting extras and casts and people just walking down the road. She calls herself a king. It's Look Love.
Oh, I call myself, I'm an extra in your imaginary world that nobody believes in. Okay. Wow, so much for Freedom Day.
And then having said all of that, that's more flavor.
You know, today's Freedom Day, and I don't remember our freedom fighters fighting for this kind of freedom of expression that Mablé is demonstrating. This is not what Madiba fought for.
And they attack me even on Freedom Day. On that note, it's time for Top Trend.
All right, so hashtag Freedom Day 2021 has been dominating the timelines, naturally, today. In fact, happy Freedom Day to you and you and you. Now, today marks 27 years of the first democratic election post-apartheid in the country. Of course, the theme for this year is the year of Charlotte Maxeke, the meaning of freedom under COVID-19.
What does that mean?
I am very confused.
We'll get into it as the show progresses. I mean, it's also a day when I know a lot of us will be coming together in front of the TVs to catch Sarafina on VCR. I mean, even the Google Doodle has gone as far as commemorating and celebrating and acknowledging this day today.
Okay, but on the real though, before we actually go too far, guys, what does this mean? What does freedom under COVID-19, which is an oxymoron to me because we're really on free in a pandemic, what does that even mean?
I don't know, guys. I don't know. This day is a very strange day because it's Freedom Day, and I woke up to this tweet from Lumka Tile. Uti, my parents are dragging me to another church for deliverance tomorrow. It'll be the third time since they find out who I am. I genuinely envy anyone whose parents have accepted them. When I tell you this is not a choice, I mean it. We go through a lot. So until people like her are free in this country, I don't think that I've got a reason to celebrate this day. Yeah.
And I think it is heartbreaking when you see stories like that, when you hear the level at which women are being killed every single day, when you look at the state of our country with all these different things being sort of exposed and shown to us about how the people that we have trusted the most are letting us down intensely and at the cost of the most vulnerable in the country. It's so disappointing, and it's hard to kind of celebrate a day like this and smile about it.
But the other thing is we need to remember that today was an important day in our history. And we were all high on this idea of democracy during those elections in '94. But I have a feeling that that high has worn off in the minds and the hearts of many people.
100%.
That idea of, you know, a promise of prosperity is slowly fading away. And you have to wonder, I mean, the irony of it all, right? We talk about freedom. Our leaders talk about freedom, but yet a lot of them are captured.
And until we are all free, nobody's free.
Sure. Anyway, guys, let's move on to a story that has literally been on everybody's lips and is still on everybody's lips right now. Listen, Norma Mngoma understood the assignment, and her appearance before the state capture inquiry last night was a television moment we never knew we needed. In her explosive testimony before Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, the estranged wife of the former Minister of Finance made startling revelations, from lavish gifts to the Gupta family's influence in state-owned entities and to ministerial appointments.
Soon after that, hashtag Norma dominated our timelines and divided opinions on the Twitter streets, and her testimony drew an avalanche of comments, and this is what many had to say. Andy N weighed in with this, said, the very same South Africans that want corruption to stop are now saying Norma Gigaba should have kept quiet. Guys, how will we fix the country when we are uncomfortable with how the truth chooses to surface? Okay, Malachi didn't mince his words. He said, when Norma Gigaba is done, let us remember that she was a unwilling participant in activities that she knew ultimately were at the expense of the taxpayer and by implication, the poor. She is no hero. She will never be. A woman scorned is not a woman exonerated.
What?
Yo!
I don't like that because we've seen males who are married testify and give some vital information to the commission, and nobody's talking about, you know, husband scorned or whatever. So I don't like those references. If there's somebody who's willing to volunteer information that could be helpful, so be it.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Suntosh added this and said, as a student journalist in my undergrad years, I once wrote about Malusi Gigaba in unflattering terms when he was still in the shadows. What does that mean? The warning signs flashed early on. Norma is forcing us to see what was always there, but it is an expose of a system, not of a single man.
I mean, there's no question that her testimony, some would say has been wild, some would say has been absolutely serious in terms of the allegations. What do you guys make of some of the things she was saying?
My top moments came through because I went home and I watched this thing and I sat there and I was ready for it. And I always believed more that I'm doing okay in life. I believe that I'm like, if broke was in China, I'm probably in South Africa. It's far from me. Until Norma Gigaba said this.
Yeah. And what kind of amounts did you regard as normal in terms of cash that he would give you?
Maybe 50,000, 100,000 for me it was normal.
It was
but
normal
maybe to other
that.
people it was
yes.
not.
100,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's normal.
Do they still say marry well? And is that what marry well is?
Because if that's normal for her, then we are all broke on this table.
Oh, okay. So this is the moment that stood out for me. Check this out.
Now you go on to estimate how much your wedding cost. How much was that?
It was 4 million to 5 million.
And who paid the wedding expenses?
It's me.
And how did you pay them?
I always pay them cash.
4 to 5 million, 100K, normalcy. I don't know. I don't.
You know, I think there's enough popcorn for us to watch this over and over again.
And have a new reaction each time because
you know what I mean?
It's unbelievable.
It is truly unbelievable, but I think this is one of the things for me that was a standout, right? Take a look at this.
Did he tell you who these unofficial advisors were?
Yes, he told me.
What did he say?
It was the Guptas, AJ and his brothers, which I don't know all of them by names. Because I'm only familiar with AJ more than the other ones.
I mean, this is her saying that the former minister, Mr. Gigaba, is calling the Guptas his former advisors. I mean, what in the state capture is that? And how do you have a minister who's compromised at that level? I mean, that's a serious accusation. Not to mention, of course, the luxury German vehicles that were donated, that she was also driving in, and at some point it disappeared. Even a gold necklace for their baby.
Mina, Mo, all I'm saying is that the day that I get married, I don't mind people whistleblowing at their expense and me watching it on TV. But the day that I'm getting married, there's going to be a prenup, and stapled at the back is an NDA for pillow talk because you. Whoa!
Won't pillow talk do it? Now the men are never going to tell us anything ever again.
Never.
Never. Oh,
NDA.
Wow.
Well, there's no question that this is going to keep unraveling in many different ways. So don't move a muscle, because when we come back, we have some exciting hashtags coming your way. You don't want to miss out on any of them. It is hashtag TsA on 3. Stay with us.
Won't the Cluster Queens do it? Welcome back to hashtag TsA on 3. It's official. Babes Swadumo and Mampintsha have tied the knot. The two musicians had a joyful and grand traditional ceremony this past weekend filled with their close family and their friends. Their wedding comes just 5 months after Mampintsha popped the big question. And though many are overflowing with love and joy for the couple, the wedding has also drawn a number of mixed reactions from social media, which has had them trending. Nopopi saying responding to a tweet from News 24 saying, to mark their 10 years together, the weekend Gqom Queen Babes Oduma and Mampintsha made it official when they celebrated the traditional wedding in Ballito. So she responded and said, Babes 26 minus 10, she was 16. Mampintsha 38 minus 10, he was 28. With Nabisa chiming in and saying this. But why can't people let Mampintsha and Babes just be? Don't tell their story for them or even try to analyze their situation.
So this story highlights two important issues. Firstly, it's the issue of grooming and their domestic violence that has played out in front of us. What do you guys make out of this situation?
You know what? I have been looking at the different images that have been posted, and her facial expressions. I think there's only even one picture where she's even looking like she's trying to smile. Look at her right there. She looks withdrawn. She looks sad. She doesn't look pleased to be there. His body language is saying one thing. Obviously, I'm not an expert, but it doesn't look like this is a celebratory moment. She looks fearful. It almost looks like she's putting out some sort of SOS. So you know how people say on Twitter, what is the one tweet that would show us that you need help? And people say different things that are not what they would usually speak about. And so this picture kind of gives me that energy of, you know, SOS, like help me. I may be reading too much into it, but...
I mean, here the other thing, right? We know about the abuse allegations and incidents. We've seen even an Insta Live where, you know, he was clearly hitting her. Now, we've spoken a lot about people leaving relationships that are abusive, women leaving and fighting. And we've often said, babes, leave.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of talk around why she hasn't left or why it's so difficult. And we know there's serious power dynamics at play. And that it makes it difficult for a lot of women to leave relationships. I don't know what's going on in that relationship or that marriage. But is there a thinking here? And is it too far-fetched to wonder whether maybe she feels Mampintsha has turned the corner? Maybe she feels he has changed. Maybe they have both as a couple managed to get around some of their toxic issues and whatever it is that we're battling with as a couple and their own individual issues.
But you know, Mo, it has been said that the scariest or the most fearful and most dangerous time for any woman who's in an abusive relationship is when they try leave, right? That's when they're at risk the most. Number two is the fact that never doubt the intensity of abuse and how deep it goes, where she's in a position where she feels like, I've been with this man since I was 16. I've known him for that long. I don't know if I can live beyond this. What happens to me after this? I don't even think she's in a point where she even thinks it's something to leave or get out of. And obviously, if she was 16 when they met and he was 28, there's a big role of that grooming. There's a lot to be said about how much older he was, how much he influenced her, how deep in her mind and in her system he actually is. She doesn't feel like she's a whole entire being without him.
I believed in growing up. We were told is about Billy as ngenwa, you know, and then as growing up, I realized that's actually a problematic thing amongst men, and we are the ones that allow these things to carry on. For me, I'm just going to sit on this table and say, congratulations, babes, and Mampintsha, you have stood in front of your maker and you said forever it is. And my job right now as a woke millennial is to say that should she ever come out again and say that he's abusing me, I will still support her. Because I saw a lot of people that were saying, oh, now I'm out, I wash my hands. No, we don't wash our hands from this situation. We will support her even if she comes out 16 times during that marriage, and we will support her. That's something. So this video popped up on my timeline. This is apparently something that happened in Rosebank after a guy was not allowed to go into an establishment where he wanted to speak to his ex-girlfriend, and then this happened.
See, I told you so. I told you. So. I knew he's going to go in again. He's going in again. Oh my God!
I mean,
what is wrong with men?
I mean, that's dreadful. You know, first of all, I don't even know if anyone got injured. Somebody could have gotten injured. Someone could have died. When are we men going to start talking about the things that bother us? When are we going to start dealing with our deep-seated issues, the emotional, the psychological issues, the anger that we have that manifests in moments like that? Because a situation like that could have ended in tears.
I think what upsets me is the fact that you even feel like you have the room and the right to do something like that. Like, that's a normal reaction to you. It makes sense in your mind because chances are nothing is going to happen to you. Slap on the hand, pay whatever bail, and then carry on and terrorize that very same girl
Look, you know what? It's actually not about the fact that he feels that nothing will happen. Let's take it back to the fact that logically you think, Kuti, that is okay. And it brings us back to the fact that as black men, because that was a black establishment, we know who goes there. As black men, we need to be familiar with therapy. And that is something that we see as a sign of weakness, but it's not.
I won't even lie, I think it's beyond therapy. I don't even know what to do, like a or something, I don't know.
But you know what, Lut? I agree with Mable, and I think we as men don't have these conversations enough amongst ourselves. I'm not saying that women should jump in and help us, but we do need support. But what I am saying is that we need to talk as men, because we're clearly sitting with a volcanic eruption of heaven knows what, and we see it happen in that fashion and many other ways.
I will say it.
Nothing said stop.
I'll say this, Lut. Every black woman right now, if you're watching it, do not date any man, don't get into a relationship with any man that does not go to therapy. Maybe it's even if it's a counselor there, but the clinic, but date people who see someone, because we are very, 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 very damaged. And we actually take these things and we walk with them and we wear them as some form of badges, and we say, no, I'm strong, I've gotten over those things. No, you haven't. Go and see someone, go and talk to someone.
On that note, after the break, we talk about tackling sexual harassment in the workplace as a young millennial who's just entered the workforce with HR Maverick Boniwe Dunster in our hashtag Flowers Not Fist feature, brought to you by our besties at Vodacom and their Further Together brand refresh. You don't want to miss it. See you in a bit.
I'm learning, no? Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Getting there. All right, welcome back to hashtag TSA on 3. Now, you need to take action and play an active role in tackling the plight of gender-based violence together with Vodacom. I mean, the time to turn a blind eye to this unprecedented rate of GBV in country is long gone, and Vodacom is urging you to do your part. And on that note, it is time for our weekly installment of hashtag Flowers Not Fists.
With technology and humanity, we can go further together. Vodacom.
Although it's a topic we don't often hear about outside of our immediate friend group, sexual harassment occurs frequently in our society, and with that comes a number of fears and concerns driven by lack of information and societal pressures. Even though we've seen a generational shift in how sexual harassment is viewed in the workplace, silence is still the prevailing antidote.
Boniwe Dunster, a human resource professional, joins us tonight to help us tackle sexual harassment in the workplace and help us identify the resources we can use. Welcome, Boniwe, to TrendingSA. Now, Boniwe, sexual harassment is not just predatory behavior that we've been fed by society. It wears many faces, from the inappropriate touches experienced when a colleague is moving you out of the way to overt and aggressive impositions made behind closed doors. Due to these fine lines, it can often be hard to actually for a victim to know when they are being violated. So what exactly constitutes sexual harassment?
Sure. Thank you so much. So what constitutes sexual harassment is defined in the Code of Good Practice. So sexual harassment is unwanted conduct of sexual nature. And the emphasis is on unwanted because it's not mutual. You need to be in a position to say it makes me uncomfortable and I don't really appreciate what you're doing to me or how you're talking to me. It can either be verbal, non-verbal, but the most common one is actually physical.
I mean, for millennials who have perhaps just entered the workforce, how do they go about confronting this issue? How do they go about speaking up and even seeking justice in cases where they feel they've been harassed?
So with millennials or people that just generally do not know, it is important as a starting point is that when somebody treats you or does actions that are unwanted or unpleasant to you, the first thing is to tell them that you don't want it and it makes you uncomfortable. That's the first thing. Secondly, if the behavior continues, you need to report the behavior to their seniors or to your human resources department. Often sexual harassment matters or cases are very difficult to prove and they often take too long. And I often advise people to actually keep a diary. So as soon as somebody does something and they repeat it, diarize it, the date it happened, the incident, the time, your response, and what was their action or their words, because that actually then also then helps you to be able to build up a case when you go to report a matter to either the senior or to the human resources department.
So Boniwe, so what are the resources in place? Should anybody in a place of employment be ready to come forward and report a sexual harassment case?
So the resources and the support that's available with many organizations, it's counseling. Many organizations, they do have employee wellness programs where they offer free counseling to victims or to employees of such nature. So it is important for people to actually take that services and utilize it. Secondly, it's confidentiality. As soon as you report it to your line manager or to your human resources practitioner, they need to guarantee you confidentiality because we don't want people to start talking about you, making you uncomfortable. So as they investigate the matter, then they need to keep that confidentiality because your reputation as an employee is also quite important. Another one is also like a secure environment. So employees or employers rather, they need to provide employees or victims with a safe working environment. They need to be protected. And lastly, it can also be about having to suspend the alleged perpetrator to allow you as the victim to continue working as they investigate the matter so that the environment is clear and allows you to actually continue to work as the victim as the matter is still investigated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the issues of what's available in the workplace and the mechanism, but there's also the issue of being re-victimized, where you feel as, the victim that you may not be believed or that you might even lose your job. All those things that come into play. What do you say to somebody who feels that way?
So it is actually common practice, and we've actually heard it about from certain victims to say, I'm victimized, the work environment is unpleasant, it's unpleasant. So what we often do, or what many organizations do, especially those organizations that do take matters of sexual harassment seriously, they would firstly start to, like as I said, suspend the alleged perpetrator. And that is a way of them creating a safe working environment for the employee. Nice. And then again, you actually also have trade unions and other organizations which are also there to actually protect and also help the victim during the process, because not everybody actually understand what their rights are and how they actually can present their case. Right. So you find that you have trade unions in place that will actually then help you. Lastly, in organizations whereby employee relations is not well entrenched or their legal advisors are not as advanced, would recommend that they actually get external chairpersons that will actually preside over the matter, because we need somebody that is experienced and we need fairness to be provided to the case. Sure. So having to opt for an external chairperson rather than using your internal ones who might not be fully fledged or experienced in this kind of subject might actually also help and give the victim confidence in the process.
And that is the most important thing, Boniwe, and I think a lot of people need to take comfort in the idea that there are structures. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate your insights on how you weighed in here.
You can continue to help the ones that you love or get help through the GBV Command Center. You can download the free Bright Sky app or call the Vodacom GBV Command Center on 0800 428 428, available 24 hours, 7 days a week for support. And on that note, good night from us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Mwah.